if I knew I'd be okay financially, I'd get divorced. Divorce is not just a legal decision. There's a big financial aspect to it. And with the exception of children and custody, most of it is financial, right?
What are some of the most common mistakes that people make? We have a listener that's on the verge of going through a divorce or is going to go through a divorce. What would you say not to do?
The thing is that I want people to know what options that they have and what resources that they have. And I think we're going to dive into this a little bit more. The team approach of having that mental health professional, whether it be a divorce coach or a therapist, there's not a straight line from, hey, I'm not happy to I'm getting divorced. It's an emotional roller coaster. And before everybody jumps to the attorney, really make sure, hey, is this something that I gave it my all? Do we have to go to couples therapy? Is there something that we can do to help salvage? So I think that mental health professional is really important. And sometimes people call me as the CDFA and they're like, hey, I need you. And I'm like, you're not ready yet. Based upon this intake, hey, here's some resources. We need to get over that emotional hump. And when you do, then you come to me. And I think that's really important to have that emotional, okay, I'm emotionally ready now. Let's talk finances. And finances aren't just all numbers. There is some emotion that goes into it. And then from there, the divorce coach / mental health professional in the CDFA can really help guide you to the best process. And it's not always an attorney. Sometimes it's a mediator. Sometimes it's collaborative. So there are some amicable options. I'm very pro amicable divorce. There's no need to litigate, or there's very little need. Very small percentage of cases should be litigated and go to court. There's so much more flexibility in mediation and collaborative divorce that people don't know about. And I think that's just like my mission is just like you, to educate people and to let them know that there are choices out there and there's resources out there, and how important knowledge really is power.
When you start off with the emotional piece and the mental health coach, getting to mediation is that much more possible, because when I think about the people that I know that have gone through divorce for various reasons, I can't even imagine how different those outcomes would have been financially, especially like you said, if you can avoid litigation, that's brilliant. So I'm guessing this isn't a common strategy, right?
No, it's not, but I hope it will be. It's like my mission. Going back to your original question about the mistakes, a lot of time the woman wants to stay in the house. And I am just a very honest person. And I tell them, like, it's okay to want the house, but we have to peel back the layers of like, does this make sense? Do you want the house because you need a safe place to live? Or is it because your children were born here? It might not make sense financially. And there's this one case that came to me for post-divorce transition assistance. And so I didn't help her through the process. The divorce was over. She came to me to say, hey, can you help me with like a budget, cash flow moving forward? So she showed me like the settlement and everything. And I was just like, my stomach like went into a knot right away. It was like one of those cases where the cost of not having a CDFA or somebody in your corner, she ended up taking the house in lieu of maintenance. She didn't get any alimony. All right, how are we going to pay for this house? And she's like, well, I have child support. I'm like, well, not for that much longer. Like,
People come up with these conclusions. What are they thinking?
I wanted to call the attorneys up right away and be like, how are we paying for this? We have taxes, we have homeowners insurance. And she's like, oh, I have this account. It's an IRA. And I'm like, you're not 59 and a half. She's like, no. And I'm like, all right, well, you can't touch this until you're 59 and a half, or else you're going to get penalized. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, and the money that comes out of here is going to be taxed. She's like, nobody told me that. I like felt so bad for her. And it turns out that the house had a very low cost basis. They bought it like a long, long time ago. And I said, now when you sell this, you're going to have a capital gain. And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, the gain on the house, you can only exclude $250,000 now because you're a single person and you're not married. And she's like, what if we would have sold it together? And I showed her the math of what she would have netted one versus the other. And again, deer in headlights, look. And it was one of those situations where I was just like, this is like the perfect case study to say, like, there were so many things that went wrong and so much information that, like, if she would have just known, she could have made better decisions for herself.
I'm guessing that's common, right?
It is. And it's not just that. It's like I had one, she's like, "Oh, I wish I would have known you 5 years ago." She took a lump sum instead of like a payment stream. And she said now the cost of taking care of my kids with inflation post COVID, she was like, I shortchanged myself so much by taking that up front. Again, it's one of those things where you want the education because knowledge is power, and like the more information you have, the better decisions that you can make. I do a lot of work with young couples getting together. As you're coming together, I think it's really important so that you don't end up meeting me through divorce proceedings, to have that financial communication with one another. And I think that there's a big disconnect there, as like when young people get together, they're focused on the wedding, the bridal shower, the bachelorette party. And it's like, no, guys, let's talk about like, do I have to take care of my mother-in-law? Do I have to pay your student loans? Are we going to hire a CPA, or we're doing our taxes ourselves? Are we splitting things proportionally or dollar for dollar?
I'm a major CFP advocate. Especially when people are young, they're at such an advantage with all of this information and resources. Going back to our conversation, what are some of the red flags? Like, let's say you know you're going to go through a divorce, something's happened, you're looking for help. You find someone through a referral, which is typically how it happens. How will she know if who she's hired is looking out for her best interests?
I think it's one of those like gut checks situations. There's a couple of things that go into this. One, oftentimes people will call and say, like, "I'm scared to tell my attorney I'm working with you." Not like replacing your attorney. I'm not drawing up legal documents. Like, I do not have the authority to do that. Like, I'm here to advocate for you or be a neutral for you, like through this process. There's two camps. There's the I'm an advocate for amicable divorce, and I also mediate, and I'm in collaborative divorce. And those attorneys see the value that we add and are very pro team and want it to be like a very happy experience. And then there's like the sharks, right? That are just like, I'm a litigator. All you need is me. We're going to fight. We're going to put the boxing gloves on. The longer we fight, the more money I get. And
Okay, did everyone hear that? You need a team. You need
yeah.
to, we
And,
don't
and
want to drag out the fight.
And it doesn't have to be this terrible experience. Obviously, there's a reason why you guys are getting divorced, but especially when there's kids involved, it can be respectful, it can be amicable. And the beauty of it is that if you do it outside of court and not in litigation, and you hire professionals that really care about you and your family, that we can mold something that's customized to you. There's what the law says, right, that you would be entitled to, but the beauty, and I don't think people realize this in mediation and collaborative, is you can deviate from the law, what the law states. So there's guidelines, right? There's quote unquote rules, but you get to do what you see best if you both agreed to it.
Let's go back to your process because it's a 3-step process. First, you have your mental health coach come in.
If someone calls me and they're not ready for kind of the financial aspect, or they don't have their own therapist, I will suggest either a divorce coach or a mental health professional, depending upon their individual kind of why they're getting divorced, like where they are. Sometimes the mental health professional gets the first call and they're coaching, and it could be months later until they're ready for the financial aspect. There's a divorce financial clarity package that I offer, which is like 3 hours, and it's, hey, let me get all of your documentation. Let me organize it for you. And let me tell you what could, not that it's going to happen, but this is what it could look like. And then sit with that for a minute and think like, do I want to work on this? Can I get over this? Or sometimes people see the numbers and they're like, oh, all right, we're good. Who do I call next? Because
Yeah,
they're like,
more.
you have that ability, because sometimes it's so conceptual to be like, I'm barely making ends meet now with 2 incomes and 1 house. How do we go from 2 houses and all of those extra expenses? So if people see it on paper that, okay, this could work. So that's why it's not like a cookie cutter. I really want to get to know you and get financially naked so that I see where everything is. And that way I can give you the best advice possible and connect you with the best resources possible. Some cases you need a stronger attorney. The more information I have, the better guidance I can give them.
it's really important to be able to get him or her the right resources so they follow through with what you've told them, so they stick to the plan.
The follow through is really important. It's funny that you bring that up. Oftentimes, you go through the process of divorce and it's like, okay, it's stamped, it's done. The lawyer's on their way, right? They're on to the next case.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of shit you got to do after the fact, whether it's changing your name or whether it's closing out joint accounts or if it's just like updating the beneficiaries. Now you need a new will. You don't want your ex-husband to be your power of attorney or healthcare proxy, like making sure all the bank accounts are cheap. Like there's so much to do. And I really add value there to like hold your hand through that process to be like, hey, do not just forget it. We're not just divorced and like, let's go on vacation. We got work to do. We got to like check these things off and make sure we're starting this next chapter, but doing it in the right way to make sure that things are clean and fresh, new accounts, new credit cards, things are not left undone.
Nobody plans on getting divorced when they get married. What can a person do to be financially prepared for kind of anything?
The truth of the matter is when I meet with couples, they're getting married a little older, right? And so they are a little bit more established. So it's different if you're high school sweethearts, like growing things together. But now if you're getting married in your 40s, you might have your own place. You might have a sizable investment account or retirement account. So I am personally pro prenup. I know that's like a big debate for some people. I'm pro prenup. I think that's number one. Number two, if you don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation, and oftentimes people bring me in to have it and be that neutral third party, document the value of your assets before you're getting together. So like if you're getting married in, July, like get your June statements, put them in the safe, take a picture of them, put them in the safe, like know where your bank balances are. Another big thing is inheritance is always a big topic, but inheritance is not marital as long as it's not commingled. So if you inherit $100,000 and you put it in your account and it's separate, it's separate. If you put it in a joint account, it is now marital property. It's no longer separate property. It loses that. So I like to keep everything separate when it comes to inheritance.
What if you kept everything separate during your marriage?
That's a very complicated one. Depends what state you're in, if it's a community property state or an equitable property state, and depends if you like added to it, if there was any like contributions while you're married. So it's the titling, the dates, and the activity really matter in those cases. I'm writing a book. It's called Divorce by Design, and that's the whole thing. To really build your team for your divorce. So we're getting married and we're combining our lives together. Again, we're focused on the wedding and we're focused on the bachelorette party. We're not focused on like our financial lives together. So this was like my creative baby.
I just want to make sure people can find you. Your website is Mindful Financial Partners. I sincerely believe every person needs a certified financial planner as a resource.
You can go right on my website. There's a link to schedule a free consultation, get to know you meeting.
Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to continuing the conversation.